universe, Hazrat Fatima Salamullah alayha, we gathered here tonight to remember the sacrifice and honor the status of Hazrat Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us to be worthy to be followers and Shia of Fatima Zahra and her family. And may Allah inshallah elevate her status with the salawat ala Muhammadan wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وحبيبه حافظ سره ومبلغ رسالاته حبيب إله العالمين وخاتم النبيين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين الهداة المهديين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. The topic of our lectures in the next few nights and tonight will be regarding one of the masterpieces and treasures which are one of the few that we have and what's remained from Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. As you look at the life of Hazrat Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, there are some difference of opinion about the age of her departure. But even with all the disagreement and all of the difference of opinion, 2 decades are the maximum numbers that mention for the life of Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. And in that amount of time, what we have and what's available they are scarce, they're limited, but at the same time they're very important. And one of them is the Sermon of Fadakiyya, which is a lecture that after her rights was undermined, after a gift that was given to her by the Holy Prophet, which was a land known as the Fadak, was forcefully taken away from her, she came to the mosque and she publicly performed that lecture and that sermon that today we know it as Fadakiyya Khutbah. My time in 3 nights will not be enough to talk about every piece of that sermon. Our scholars, they wrote down interpretations and explanation on this sermon that you can look up yourself, known as Sharh, or as I said, the interpretations of this lecture and this sermon. But my focus on this lecture and the coming nights will be a few lessons that we can learn from this khutbah. And when you actually listen and you actually read this lecture and this sermon, you will notice that it's not even about Fadak as much. One of the few things has been discussed is that piece of land. That Hazrat Fatima used that as an excuse and as a reason to talk about other subjects, from talking about monotheism and belief in God, then talking about prophethood and nubuwwah, and then eventually talks about philosophy of our rituals and our actions as a Muslim. For example, what is the philosophy, what's the reason behind prayer? What's the reason and philosophy behind giving zakat and charity? What's the purpose of Hajj? And when you read it, it doesn't have a lot of connection to a piece of land that was taken away from her. But why? This is my personal understanding, and I thought about it, that why, rather than talking about these people are wrong and they oppressed me and my right was undermined and I'm the victim here, she talks about the philosophies and the reason behind why we pray. And when I thought about it personally, this is my conclusion, that what Fatemiyya Zahra did in this sermon is that tackling the roots of the issue. The reason that why this happened to begin with. Because the people who committed and wronged Fatemiyya Zahra are not a bunch of disbelievers that they came from outside the Medina. They don't know who Prophet was. They don't know what prayer is. They don't know what Haqqun Nas and Haqqullah and people's right and God's right is. They know all that. So perpetrators are not innocent people in the sense that they don't know what's right and wrong. Rather, they're so-called companions of the Prophet. So what she did with this sermon is that she talked about that if truly Islam established and dominated your soul, you would never end up committing this crime and committing this oppression. Because the purpose of prayer and charity and pilgrimage and all that are these things that she one by one start counting and mentioning. And if you don't see the effect, if you don't see the result, is because to begin with you don't have it right. It's like that if you have, cause and effect kind of system, if you take this medication and if the medication is the right medication, you see this result usually, right? If you use fire and if you have water on this fire and you use the proper system, you see that the water has to eventually in a certain degree start to boil. So if the water is not boiling, there is no fire. You think there is a fire, but there is no fire. So you have to go check and make sure the fire is on. In religion is the same purpose. Hazrat talks about the effect that these rituals has to, the type of impacts that they has to produce. Right? And if they're not producing that result, there is no fire to begin with. You have to look for the source of it. That's why we have traditions that talks about Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he himself said, recite a salawat. He said himself that do not look at people's prayers and fasting. Don't look how much they pray, how often they fast. That's not something that determines someone's character. That's literally Prophet's tradition. La tanzuru. Don't pay attention. Don't look at someone's number of unit of prayers, number of days that they fast. What you have to look at, this is about, we cannot truly judge someone's character, but if we have to, there's some criteria that we have to look up. We have to look at those things. What are the things Prophet said look at rather than their prayers and fasting? I talked about this topic, a subject technically last year. So I don't mind if you don't remember. Prophet said, don't look at prayers, don't look at fasting. وَلَكِنْ انظُرُوا. But what you have to look at is ada'ul amana, how trustful, how trustworthy they are, how truthful they are, how much their promises is important to them. Wafa'i bil ahd. These are the things you have to look at someone's character. And then I've seen people say, oh, but that person used to pray, but that person used to do this, but God forbid we end up hearing that they're abusive in their relationship. They used to fast in Ramadan, but we heard that they were fraud and they deceived people and stole money. They went to Hajj, but we heard that they've done this crime or that sin. Because literally Prophet said that's not what you have to look at, because prayers and fasting and all those good things that we do is supposed to produce a certain type of result. And what is that result? Prophet said, trustworthiness, truthfulness, honesty. These are the results that has to come from prayers. If it doesn't produce that, that's not the type of prayer that's supposed to be important to us. What's the point of that prayer that does not make us, or at least maintain our honesty and truthfulness? So that's why Fatemiyya Zahra's focus on this sermon is about the results, the effect, the impact of rituals, ibadat. So please read it. It's available online. You can easily look it up. Sermon of Fadakiyya, Khutbah Fadakiyya of Hazrat Fatemiyya Zahra Salamullahi Alaiha. It's a very straightforward sermon. It's not very complicated, straightforward. And in this sermon, she mentioned around 20 verses of Quran. Beauty of the word of Ahlul Bayt is that, because I've heard people say that when you talk about Ahlul Bayt, you don't talk about Quran as much. What happened to balance of Quran and Ahlul Bayt? And that could be true. In some cases, people unfortunately don't address and don't incorporate as much as word of Allah as they have to. But in so many cases, the reason is not as much because the word of Ahlul Bayt itself, our Quran, as I mentioned, Fatemiyya Zahra's Sermon of Fadakiyya has more than 20 verses of Quran reference in it. Even our du'as and supplications have verses of Quran in it. And in Du'a Nudba, if you pay attention to Du'a Nudba in the Friday morning, there are so many quotes of Quran in Du'a Nudba. Same thing is about Imam Ali alayhi salam's sermon in Nahjul Balagha. In letter number 28 is a letter that Imam Ali alayhi salam wrote to Muawiyah. And Imam mentions more than 140 verses of Quran. And then at the end, Imam says, I'm not saying this to you because I know you're not going to listen. I'm writing this so people know. Those that they have to know, and they're looking for the truth to find this. So Ahlul Bayt themselves, they were using the light of Quran in their words and their teaching. They were maintaining that balance itself. They were looking to assure everyone that they have to use Quran in order to find guidance. And we can see that in the word of Imam alayhi salam, Hazrat Fatemiyya Zahra Salamullahi Alaiha, even Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, all of the Ahlul Bayt without exception, they used Quran. They quoted Quran so many times in their own teaching. And they said, if you are confused, if you're in darkness, if you are desperate, go to Quran for guidance. That's the source that is reliable. And if you're looking for the best teacher, if you need for the best advisor, the best instructor for this book, remember Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. Prophet and his family are there to make sure you got the guidance. وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. Quran says, teacher, muallim of this book and the teacher of wisdom is the Prophet. You read it, but if you're looking for understanding it properly, that's the gate. And then that city of knowledge, he himself said, أَنَا مَدِينَةُ الْعِلْمِ وَعَلِيٌّ Baba. If you're looking for answers, I am the city of knowledge, but the gate of this city is Ali alayhi salam. He himself addressed and directed us toward that door. The family of the Prophet. So our focus are a few lessons. Lesson number 1 tonight is the importance of Quran in the teachings of Fatemiyya Zahra. The minimum is that in her sermon, she addressed more than 20 verses of Quran in one speech, one lecture. And that lecture is even about, as I said, her right to be stripped away and taken away from her. And she mentions it after praising God, after mentioning the status and the role of the Prophet, is that Quran is the book of guidance. that, oh people, if you listen to Quran, if you listen to the teachings of Quran, this is the way you practice your faith. But in order to understand Quran, we have understanding of Quran. One of the most important ways to understand Quran is to be familiar with tafsir of Quran, known as interpretation. Why is it important? Because we see people abuse Quran, even today. From extremist to nihilist to atheist, everybody quote Quran for us. Islamophobe quote Quran for us. Lunatics and crazy ones quote Quran for us. And so this is Quran. In order to justify their goal, their ideology, they use Quran. That's why tafsir protect that misinterpretation, misunderstanding of Quran. And Ahlul Bayt did the tafsir of Quran themselves. Because when Fatemiyya al-Zahra is quoting those verses in her khutbah, in her sermon, she also explained what these verses mean. What's the message of these ayat, these verses? The methods, the known methods of Quran, I want you to know, the methods of tafsir or interpretation of Quran that was used by the Ahlul Bayt. The most common one, the number one, this is a bit technical, but it's good to know. And even Allama Tabatabai used it in Al-Mizan, a known tafsir book. Tafsir al-Namuna, or the selected, chosen tafsir, is also used this method. Is known of tafsir or interpretation of Quran using Quran. If you want to understand some verses of Quran, you need other verses of Quran to elaborate on that. That's one method being used by Ahlul Bayt quite often. For example, somebody came and asked Prophet, what's the meaning of Samad, Allahu Samad? Which means that, Allah is needless or self-sufficient. And Rasulullah said, the meaning of that has been mentioned right after. Allahu Samad means Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad. It means that He has no beginning, He has no end, He's not dependent on any cause, He has no expression, no finite imagination for His existence. That's what Samad means. That's one example. Another example, they ask, what is the meaning of An'amta alayhim? Because we say in Surah Ham, Sarata alladhina an'amta alayhim. Oh God, guide us toward the straight path, the path of those that you blessed, the path of those that you completed or that you favored them. Who are these blessed and favored of your creation? An'amta alayhim, right? And then you go to another chapter of Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned An'amta alayhim, or who? Nabiyyin, Siddiqeen, Shuhada, Salihin. Literally Allah said, An'amta alayhim, those that we blessed, those that they are recipient of our blessing, are the messengers of God. They are the truthful ones, those who stood by the truth no matter what. Martyrs, those who they paid the big price, which is life, in order to stand by their values and principles. And Salihin, righteous reformers. Those that they were not bystanders and they let the wrong to continue doing. They stood up. They did what they could have done. These are the one. An'amta alayhim. These are the path of those that we ask Allah to guide us to. And based on this, our Imams are An'amta alayhim because they were martyrs, because they were Siddiq and truthful, because they were Salih. Out of the four, there were three of them. So when you say Sirat al-Ladhina an'amta alayhim, it also means indirectly the path of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Of course it means the path of the Prophet because it's Nabiyyin, right? It means the path of all the messengers of God. Also the path of Ali alayhi salam, Fatemiyya al-Zahra, Ahlul Bayt, all of them. So even in our prayers, those people who are always looking for doubt and skepticism in Ahlul Bayt, I said, even if you look at your prayers, you find Ahlul Bayt embedded within your prayer. Even at the end of the prayer, we say, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you, O Messenger, Prophet. And then we say, Assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillah salihin. Peace be upon us and all of the righteous servants of God. Again, Ahlul Bayt are there. This is Quran bil Quran, tafsir of using Quran and in order to understand Quran. That's why I said, brothers, some people use one verse from Quran about halal meat, which in that verse it mentioned that ta'amuhum halal lahum. The food of Ahlul Kitab, the people of the book, are permissible, lawful to you. And they use that ayah to justify that any meat from Ahlul Kitab is permissible. And I say, if you read other verses in Quran, which literally says that if the food, then this ayah said their food is permissible to you. And other ayah said the meat that the name of God is not mentioned, if you eat from it, is an act of disobedience. ذَلِكَ فِسْقٌ. Right? If you eat from that meat, is fisq. And then the ayah says, but shayateen, they're whispering in your ears to convince you to eat from it. إِنَّ الشَّيَاطِينَ لَيُوحُونَ إِلَىٰ أَوْلِيَائِهِمْ. So in order to understand even that ayah, you need other verses to put next to it to understand it better. That's one way. Second is using riwayah, traditions, to understand a verse. That's another common way. Before I explain this, let me just mention the other one, which I don't have time to talk as much, is to use occasion of revelation, why a verse was revealed in order to understand it. And in other words, understand the context, where and when this ayah was revealed, so we know what's the application of it. Who are the subjects? Who is the one that being addressed? So that also helps in tafsir. And then we have ta'wil, which is understanding the deeper layer of ayah, which is not being understood from the literal understanding of the surah, which in a Salafi ideology, that's not permissible. Everything is literal. When you say hand of God in Quran, in a Salafi interpretation, that's a hand. It's a form of hand, it's a physical hand. There is no ta'wil. Ta'wil means there's sometimes that you need to understand that the ayah is not a literal message, does not have a literal message. For example, this ayah from the tafsir of Shia and Sunni, they mentioned that the hand of God means the power of God. When you call somebody a handyman, means that somebody who's skillful. You don't mean that literally they have a big hand. You use that word to convey this ability and skills that this person has. When you say hand of God, means power of God, ability of God. Yadullah fawqa aydihim. The hand of God is over their hands, means the power, the ability, the strength of God is over any other power and the strength. That's what ta'wil is. You don't understand it literally. They call it esoteric dimension of the ayah. Only people like Prophet and Ahlul Bayt have a permission to go to that level. Nobody else can do. I cannot just come and say, oh, I feel this is what it means. Only certain people have that ability. وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. Those who have well-founded, strong knowledge, they have ability, which are the Ahlul Bayt and the Prophets. So that's the four known way of doing tafsir. Occasion of revelation number 3. And the fourth one was ta'wil. Understanding the esoteric dimension, the deeper level, which only comes from the wisdom of the Prophet and his family. Regular people cannot do it. Average person, scholars, mujtahideen, no one have the permission to go to that level, to do ta'wil. But about number 2, which is riwayah, which means understand a verse of Quran based on traditions that came from Prophet. That is known as riwayi tafsir. That's what this sermon of Hazrat Fatemiyya is about. is a form of riwai, tafsir that she used. Because she also mentioned ayah of Quran and she mentioned tradition of the Prophet. For example, when we talk about Inna a'ataynaka al-kawthar, which Allah said, indeed, we blessed you, we honored you with an abundant good. Kawthar means an extreme level of khair. Kathir, khair kathir. An abundant level of good. So what is this kawthar? What is this abundant level of good? Then you go and you see the tradition, that the tradition said this kawthar is Fatemiyya Zahra salamullah alayha. There are people who mention other things, but when you look at the context, this is the beauty of it. Because the riwayah that says Hazrat Fatima, there's also a riwayah that said this Kawthar, it's a pilgrimage. Kawthar is completion of religion. They mention something else. But it's at the context of the surah, the chapter, which Allah said, okay, now that we honored you with Kawthar, with Fatima Zahra, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ, perform, establish prayers, and make a sacrifice. Wanhar, sacrificing a camel. Inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar. Indeed, your opponent, your enemy is abtar. Abtar means tailless, without progeny, without descendant, without somebody who carried their name. The context mentioned is not about anything. It's about opponent accusing Prophet of being abtar, means that his message will die with him. And Allah said, we gave you Kawthar. It means if they are abtar, means you're not abtar. That your names will live on. We gave you something that will eternalize your message. This is the first message from Fatima Zahra Salamullah Alayha's Sermon of Fadakiyya. To understand Quran, not just only recite it, just also pay some attention to tafsir of it. Because if you don't understand tafsir of it, then anybody can package Quran and sell their message in the name of Quran. But if you become familiar with tafsir of Quran with Quran, as Ahlul Bayt used it, become familiar with the traditions related to the chapters in Quran, become familiar with the occasion of revelation. Because again, Shia and Sunni narrates occasion of revelation, that why this ayah was revealed, and Shia and Sunni agrees upon. Fakhr Razi, Ahlul Sunnah tradition narrated that Kawthar is Fatima Zahra, Salamullah alayha. So if you say our scholars are biased, there are other people from other school of thought and what other sect that they say this was about Fatima Zahra. And give you that assurance to become familiar with the status of Fatima Zahra from the light, from the address of Quran. So if someone is khayr kathir, if somebody is kawthar, I'm asking you, if somebody is an abundant amount, unimaginable level of good, amount of good that you can imagine, kawthar, would you not be tempted to go to that source to get some of that good yourself? That's why it's important to become familiar with Fatima Zahra, Salamullah alayha. Because as we attempt to get closer, to become familiar with her teaching, with her life, even carrying her name with our children, naming our children after Fatima, after Zahra, you connected yourself to an unimaginable amount of good. And that comes from the address that Quran provided for us. That's the first message. But let me finish. Finish doesn't mean 5 minutes. Let me, because when I say finish, people think, okay, it's going to be 2 more minutes. This means this is the last point I make. That point, it takes some time to elaborate on that, but this will be the conclusion. I try my best that at the end of my lecture you remember what I said. I don't want it to be scattered. I want you to be able to categorize it and say, okay, this was what we begin with, this was the middle part, this is the conclusion. So we mentioned the lesson is the importance of Quran, importance of tafsir, the type of tafsir of Quran in the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. Let me give you one example. And the example will be about the second type of tafsir, the tradition, providing a riwayah with the verse of Quran. And people in this riwayah are the two of the best of creation, Prophet and Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Recite the salawat. Imam Ali alayhi salam came to Rasulullah and asked a question about a verse of Quran. Remember, Ali alayhi salam is an obedient student of the Prophet. All the sermons that you see from Imam Ali, all of them are after Prophet passed away. Not even one. When Prophet was alive, Ali ibn Abi Talib was quiet listening, like a good student must. So every time Imam Ali had a question, he used to come to Prophet. But even the type of question Imam Ali asks is very different. So he came to Prophet and asked, Ya Rasulullah, what is the meaning of this verse? Yamhullah ma yasha wa yuthbit. Which means Allah erases what He wills and He stabilizes and keep what He wills. What is the meaning of that? Allah erases, Allah keeps something permanent and hold it. To give you a context of this ayah refers, in the night of Qadr or the night of measurement, we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have a plan, right? That our length of our life, how many years we will live, they're already determined. In the night of Qadr, we ask Allah for the best of determination, right? Everybody's familiar with that. Qadr, muqaddarat, measurements. Everything is measured. Lawh Mahfuz, the protected divine, is the one where everything is recorded. And in that measurement, Allah erases things and keep things. We thought that everything stays in Allah's plan. What is the meaning that He erases something? That's the question. Yamhullah ma yasha. Again, from our perspective, we don't know much anything about it, right? Because this is everything about ghaib. This is about unseen. What has been written, what is being erased, how this system works, we cannot figure it out. Why? Because there's no way for us to examine and study it. Who knows? The messenger of God knows. Because he's the one connected. So Imam Ali came to Prophet and asked that question. So the answer Rasulullah provided is the beautiful answer, and I want you to remember. Rasulullah said this ayah, what it means is there are certain actions, there are certain efforts in life that even changes God's plan for you. It means it will prolong life. It means extend your provision and rizq. It will alter your determination, your predetermination. There are three things Prophet said that will do that. Number one, Rasulullah said, sadaqah, giving charity. When somebody gives charity, when somebody cares for others, it will alter even the taqdeer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a human being. That's why we have this, from our elders, our parents, our grandparents, say give sadaqah, right? Give sadaqah, make sure, give your charity every day before leaving work, before going for work, for study, give sadaqah. Why? Because that is the power of selflessness. When you give charity, you care for someone beside yourself. And Allah loves people who are like Him. Right? Because Allah created us not for His sake. When He created us, there's nothing in it for God to create us. Allah is Samad. And for somebody who gives charity, is not like giving a loan, is not giving an investment. is not partnership, is giving it away. You're not going to get anything in return, at least in this life. That's why Allah loves this act so much. You become a godlike creature. We have tradition, assimilate, تَخَلَّقُوا بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ. Try to behave like God's behavior. Be merciful like the way God is. Be selfless the way God is. Be patient the way God is. Of course, He is God and you cannot ever reach His status and level, but at least try in your own limitation and capacity, try to do it. That's number one. How alter taqdeer. Yamhullah ma yasha. How Allah erases something that He wills. The will of God is for people who give charity. Number one, Prophet said to Imam alayhi salam. Number two, Rasulullah said, Birrul walidain, honoring your parents. It changes the course of your taqdeer. The plan of God will be altered for you if you honor your parents. Again, you've heard this subject so many times. That even has no exception, right? Even if your parents are disbelievers, even if they are corrupt people, even if they are sinners, still honor them. Still stay away from disrespecting. Forget about disrespecting. Honor them. Go out of your way to serve them. As long as you don't disobey God, do whatever you can for them. Birrul walidain. It will make a transformation in your taqdeer. Say the salawat ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. There is one more, then inshallah we wrap up. Will be actually the ending of it. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Prophet said the third one that will alter the taqdeer and the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wastina'ul ma'ruf. The third one is to remove a burden from someone's shoulder. That number one was to give charity. This is not about charity. This is about you being productive and helpful. Istina' is building something. When you make something, when you invent something, that's what istina' is. Ma'ruf is something good. Something productive. So doing something good, it's like helping somebody get married. That's what istina'ul ma'ruf an example could be. Helping somebody to find a place. Helping someone to study. Building a school. Making a bridge. Building a bridge. These are examples. Because it also related to the first type. The charity is sadaqah. You give it to poor people, to the needy. Wastina'ul ma'ruf are not to poor people. It could be to anyone and anything. Even as simple as giving food to an animal. Feeding a hungry animal is something good you do. You know, we don't believe in karma the way they explain in other ideologies. But in a sense that the good come back to you, we believe in it. In this life or hereafter, you will see the result of every good you do. People who define it in the materialistic way say everything good or bad, you'll see it in this life. We don't believe in that. Not every good you will see the result here, because this dunya is not even enough to pay for some of the good you do. You've seen tradition, right? For example, we have tradition that if somebody perform prayer, jama'ah prayer, there are 3 lines. If there are 1 or 2 lines, there are thawab for it. They said how much thawab. But if there are 3 lines in the jama'ah and congregation prayers, if you gather all the oceans in the world and use as an ink, and all the trees and use them as pencils and pens, and they said all these things to measure and to write down the reward, you will not be able to. And it's been said about some other good deeds that you cannot measure. So in that sense, Karma in a sense of this life, you see the result of every good here is not true. Some of the good, this life is not big enough to pay for us, to compensate for that good. And some of the evil we commit, this world is not enough to punish us for it. But in some cases, you'll see some of the result of the good and some of the result of the evil we commit. It's a relative karma, it's not an absolute karma. And Prophet said, وَاسْتِنَاعُ الْمَعْرُوفِ will alter. يَمْحُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ. This is an example of riwayah or riwayi tafsir, interpretation using traditions of the Prophet. And we have, alhamdulillah, so many other chapters, so many other traditions who help us, give us a sense of direction, how to understand Quran and how to live Quran. Because when I read this ayah, يَمْحُ اللَّهُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيُثْبِتُ, Allah keeps what He wills and He erases what He wills. What should I do about it? Okay, I got it, but what can I do about it? The tradition of the Prophet give us direction, give us a purpose. May Allah inshallah give us the tawfiq to use the teachings of the Prophet, teachings of the family of the Prophet, teachings of the Ahlul Bayt as a way, as a lantern of guidance, and to be inspired to transform ourselves for the better, to live of a life of a servant of God, live a life of a righteous person who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised all the salvation in this life and hereafter for them, inshallah. Let's inshallah honor Fatimah Zahra with salam. Close your eyes and imagine that you're standing in the city of Medina. And in this case, they're not bothering you in front of Baqi cemetery. They're actually letting you stand next to the graves of the Ahlul Bayt and recite with me this part of the salam of dua tawassul for Fatimah Zahra salamullah alayha. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to visit Madinatul Nabi one day without the presence of all of the oppressors who are dictating and ruling over these holy sites, inshaAllah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alayki ya Fatimah az-Zahra ya bint Muhammad يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا. Tomorrow is the last day of the life of Fatimah Zahra. On that day we have that Amir al-Mu'mineen was in the masjid. Suddenly he saw Hassan and Hussein, they're running. As they entered the mosque, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's beloved Hassan and Hussein, they're crying. Imam rushed toward them and said, the light of my eyes, what happened? He said, my dear father, come to our house that our mother, she will not be living for long. Come to the house as soon as you can. We have in a tradition that they mention Amir al-Mu'mineen, a man that he never turned his back to the enemy. A man who never showed any sign of weakness in his life. when he was going back to the house, as he is expecting the last moments of the life of Fatima, he cannot walk for long. He's sitting down for a while. He catches breath. He stands up and he continues for a while until he arrived. He rushed to the bed of Fatima to Zahra. The eyes of Fatima are closed. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, Assalamu alayki ya Fatima Zahra. Peace be upon you, O Fatima. No answer came from Fatima. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, Assalamu alayki ya bint Rasulillah. Peace be upon you, daughter of the Messenger of Allah. No answer came from Fatima. Assalamu alayki ya Habibat Rasulillah. Peace be upon you, beloved of Rasulullah. No answer came from Fatima. Amir al-Mu'mineen began to cry. He said, Ya Fatima, people of Medina don't answer Ali. Now is your turn to don't answer the salam of Ali. Fatima Zahra opened her eyes. Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Last words of Fatima to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ya Ali, make sure to bury me at night. Wash my body at night. I don't want any of my enemies to be present during my funeral. Second, my dear Ali, stay next to my grave for a while. Recite Quran. I love to hear the voice of Ali reciting Quran. The third request of Fatima said, Ya Ali, don't stay for long. My orphans are alone at home. They have no one except you. Amir al-Mu'mineen stand next to the body of Fatima. They placed the body of Fatima toward the Qibla. Ya Rasulallah, what happened to your beloved Fatima? What they have done to your beloved Fatima that she didn't want anyone in her funeral except Amir al-Mu'mineen and a few others. In the middle of the night, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Salman, Miqdad, they're carrying the body of Fatima. Imam said to Imam al-Hassan, my son Hassan, make sure no one is following us. As they were taking the body of Fatima toward the grave, Imam Hassan came to his father. My father, there is a shadow following us. I don't know who it is. Amir al-Mu'mineen went backward. He found who's this shadow who is following the body of Fatima in the middle of the night. We have in tradition that he came to find Zainab al-Kubra salamullah alayha. At that time she's a few years old. She is carrying the scarf of her mother following the body of Fatima. Amir al-Mu'mineen hold the body of Zainab, comforted Zainab. This child just became orphaned. He comforted Zainab al-Kubra. He sent her with Imam al-Hassan back to the house. But no musibah and tragedy is like the tragedy of Hussein. On that night, Amir al-Mu'mineen comforted Zainab, made sure Zainab is going back with her brother. But no musibah is like the musibah of Hussein. No day is like the day of Ashura, when Zainab was next to the body of Hussein. Rather than helping her, comforting her, they attacked her from every corner, forcefully separated Zainab from Hussein. وَأَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. يا رب الحسين بحق الحسين اشف صدر الحسين بظهور الحجة.
قلب عاشقم ای نور قلب عاشقم، شمع این خانه تویی، زهرا زهرا مرو مرو، لطف کاشان تویی، ای خوب و مهربان من، یار 9 ساله من، یا نیلوفری شده، ای پر لاله من، ممنونم اگر نروی، میمیرم اگر بروی، از پیش من مرو، زهرا تو پناه منی، گرمی ده آه منی، زهرا مرو مرو، آخر بر این دل زارم رحمی، زهرا یاری غیر از تو ندارم، رحمی، زهرا یا زهرا، یا زهرا، یا زهرا. شب شهادت خانم فاطمه زهراست. نمیخواستیم مصدق بشیم چون شب کاریه. اگر مایل هستید یه چند دقیقه سینه بزنیم، تشریف بیارید جلو، انشالله بتونیم با دست پر از این مجلس بریم. بیمار داریم تو بیمارستان، خیلی چشمشون به این مجلس دوست داشتن بیان، نتونستن بیان. شب شهادت بیبی فاطمه زهراست، انشالله که همه حاجت روا بشن. چشام داره بارون میباره، چقدر مادرم بیقراره، داره ما رو تنها میذاره، داره ما رو تنها میذاره، مرو مادر ای مادر من، 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 مرو مادر ای مادر من. چند روزیه که بهار زندگیم رنگ خزونه، چند روزیه که بهار زندگیم رنگ خزونه، با دل خون دستای دعام به سمت آسمونه، دستای دعام به سمت آسمونه. چند روزیه که مریض خونه ما نیم جونه، چند روزیه که مریض خونه ما نیم جونه. هر کی اومد به عیادتش میگه که نمیمونه، به عیادتش میگه که نمیمونه. قلب ما روشنایی نداره، درد مادر شفایی نداره، خون دیگه صفایی نداره. مادر من خدایا جوونه، کاشکی بازم کنارم بمونه. مرو مادر، ای مادر من، مادر التماست میکنم. دختر تو این روزا بیتابه و پر اضطرابه، توی بستر مادرش رو ببینه خیلی عذابه، مادرش رو ببینه خیلی عذابه. تو که هستی پس چرا سلام بابا بی جوابه، تو که هستی پس چرا سلام بابا بی جوابه. بعد از اون روز روی دستای بابا جای تنابه، روی دستای بابا جای تنابه. زیر بار مصیبت خمیده، تن از دشمن تو شنیده، خنده های مغیره رو دیده. ای خدایا این دلم بی شکیبه، مثل بابا مادرم هم غریبه. مرو مادر، ای مادر من، مرو مادر من، مهربونم بگو با من که گناه تو چی بوده، چرا روی مثل ماه تو سیاه و کبوده، مثل ماه تو سیاه و کبوده. چرا خونه هنوزم پر از بوی آتیش و دوده، چرا خونه هنوزم پر از بوی آتیش و دوده. مرو مادر به خدا برای ما یتیم زوده. به خدا برای ما یتیم زوده. کار زینب فقط عشق و آهه. روزای سختی من تو راهه. وعده بعدیمون قتل گاهه. من بمیرم که حسین سر نداره. مادر من کنارش بیتابه. مرو مادر ای مادر. مرو مادر ای مادر من. 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 مرو مادر من. یا زهرا یا زهرا یا زهرا یا زهرا یا زهرا. با حاجت باشی یا زهرا یا زینب یا زینب یا زینب یا زینب. حیدر 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 حیدر. عجل الله حجت الله عجل الله بقي الله حجت الله عجل الله حجت الله عجل الله. صلى الله عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا. صنوبری که خمیده خدا نگه دارد. خوشیز عمر ندیده خدا نگه دارد.
اللهم إنا نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم العز الأجل الأكرم بفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها. استجب دعواتنا يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. إلهي يا حميد بحق محمد يا عالي بحق علي يا فاطر السماوات بحق فاطمة يا محسن بحق الحسن يا قديم الإحسان بحق الحسين اللهم ادخل على أهل القبور السرور، اللهم اغن كل فقير، اللهم اشبع كل جائع، اللهم اكس كل عريان، اللهم اقض دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم اصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشف كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر، إنك على كل شيء قدير. وعجل اللهم في فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا خير خلق الله يا خاتم النبيين، السلام عليك يا مولاتنا يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين ويا إمام المتقين علي بن أبي طالب، السلام عليكم أيها الحسن والحسين سبطي نبي الرحمة وسيدي شباب أهل الجنة، السلام عليك علي بن الحسين زين العابدين، السلام على محمد بن علي الباقر، السلام على جعفر بن محمد الصادق، السلام على موسى بن جعفر الكاظم، السلام على علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى، السلام على محمد بن علي التقي الجواد، السلام على علي بن محمد الهادي النقي، السلام على حسن بن علي العسكري الزكي، السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان يا خليفة الرحمن يا إمام الإنس والجان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك، السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر، صدق الله العلي العظيم.